What is up, Scrub fam? I am back with another episode of The Winning Edge. Today with me, I have a highly esteemed guest from Pat's Discord. This is Chris Welch from Shenron's Lair, winner of the Core TCG Event. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm doing great, man. How you doing?
Fantastic. We're going to be going deep into his tournament experience. You know how we do. We always go deep here. We're going to go super deep. And before we go do that, I'm going to go ahead and get a shout out to my sponsor, Bearded Collectibles. Alec Pastrana is the best shop owner on the planet. If you're looking to pick up your sealed product for the World Martial Arts Tournament coming out, make sure you get it from Alec Pastrana. He's got the best prices, especially on sealed product. So without any further ado, I heard that there was a big tournament this past weekend, man, with like 500 players, and you won the thing, right?
Yeah, I was the luckiest man in the room, apparently.
Yeah, no, apparently, man. So let's go ahead and start off like your experience at the vid itself. So how was your day? Because that was a super long
Uh,
day.
yeah, okay, so the day was a blur. I only had about 5 hours of sleep. We had pretty much left last minute to go, and it was a 6 hour drive down to SoCal. So we get there really late, get about 5 hours of sleep, and I have to be in line to register like 8 a.m. Pre-registration was closed, and they were going to accept 100 people on site. So I got up really early, got up to the registration, and I was waiting in line, and I was like 70th or something. I barely squeaked into the whole event, and yeah, so I waited probably about an hour and a half, 2 hours or so to get registered. And because they didn't want to overbook the event, they had to, take their time getting those registrations in. So a registration was supposed to close at 10, but it didn't close until around 11. And yeah, so um, let's see. I played. So in terms of the event, I started out. I played my first round was Mono Black Mira, which
Ooh.
was spicy, but it is like a free matchup. Unfortunately, they can't charge yellow or blue. They don't have those cards, so the deck does what it does. Round two, Green Blue SS3. Was actually the worst matchup I thought in my mind going into the event. So I thought, maybe I was gonna have trouble with it, but it wasn't an issue whatsoever. Uh, basically it was just pretty free. They can't survive.
Yeah, they
Uh,
they just
yeah,
don't have enough resources. Like they just don't have enough energy or cards in hand in order to be able to defend themselves against you.
right. They started six life, which is unfortunate, and they rely on full power energy to kind of stop you from doing much. But all it really does is keep you off the Bardock Ape through the game, because you're gonna have multiple Bardock one drops. So you're just gonna be able to like play through it essentially. So yeah, I played another green blue SS3 round three. Round four, I played against Tax's deck, Vegeta Texas, and I was against Henry Doe. He's a SoCal native. He was a good player, but um, you know, it was an easy matchup for me, unfortunately.
Hmm.
Round five, I ran into another green blue SS3. So the deck
Why
I was
why
worried
was
about
there
the
so
most.
many?
I think SoCal, like blue yellow, is a little bit more prevalent, and people are, I guess, taking that as a countermeasure to it. The guy, I played one of the better green blue SS3 players in the tournament round three, and his whole team was on blue yellow Hirudegarn, and he had been practicing against it a ton. So I think he was very prepared, or at least in his mind, he thought he was. So I think if I was able to beat him, I would pretty much be able to beat any of them. And yeah, so I was worried about the event. That was the deck I was worried about the most, but yeah, it turned out to be not a problem. So. Yeah, so round six, I played against Mirror Match. We were on table one, and he was playing the Killy Zone version, hyper aggressive. But I made blockers and I made Nimbus, and we'll go over the deck list in a minute. But I had outs in the mirror, and it was a pretty quick 2-0, I think. Um, Round seven, I played against my teammate Marcus Contarsi. We were playing the same exact deck. I think his was one or two cards different from mine out of the 65 that we played. And so we got paired up against each other. And at this time, this is round seven, we'd been playing for almost 10 hours. I guess maybe I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but in between rounds, it was like a 30 to 45-minute wait every time. And so we'd just be constantly waiting. And so by this time, we round seven, we got paired up against each other, and we just decided we didn't want to play. And we both knew that we had 2-0'd every single opponent we had played so far, and we were pretty confident one of us would win. So he ended up giving me the win, and we just went and got some food. But we play against each other a lot, and our games are usually very lengthy. and the mirror match is actually longer than other matches because of Nimbus and blockers. So it was actually a possibility we could have gone into time or something, and we wanted to win the whole event. So
So would have either you guys or both you guys getting a draw, would have that have stopped you guys from making it to the finals potentially?
yeah, it's possible. There was three undefeateds on round eight. So me, Adam Cisneros, and Steven Rodriguez, I believe his name is. We were all undefeated. So I'm pretty sure if we had gotten a draw, that those two would be undefeated and there would be one undefeated. I mean, I'm not sure 100%, but we didn't want to take that chance,
Yeah,
and we
no,
didn't
that
really want to
that's
play at the time.
that's definitely the best thing. I mean, one of you guys just getting the for sure win, and then one of you
Yeah.
taking a loss. Like you're increasing the odds that your team will be able to win the event.
Right, and it's not against the rules to concede. It is against the rules to intentionally draw, but it's not against the rules to concede. And I think that's a pretty common practice amongst teammates who get paired against each other. So, but I owe him one in the future for sure. Um, so round eight, um, I played the mirror match on stream against Adam Cisneros, and this is a longtime friend of mine from Yu-Gi-Oh. He's a former teammate of mine, and since round one, he was sitting next to me the whole day, and we were playing and next to each other, talking to each other. And I thought I finished my rounds fast, like I 2-0'd every single person up until this point, and he actually finished like a minute or two faster than me every single time. He 2-0'd every single person up until this point as well. So really, like huge, like shout out to this guy as well. He did really well, and like to get that far and to do that well, then good job to him.
And your set was
Um,
actually really good. I know that he took game one off of you because you were trying to go for
mhm,
game and he just out comboed you, but then you came back
right.
in one, two, and three.
Yeah, he just had more Nimbus than me in game one. He'd seen both Nimbus. It was just yeah, his hand was a little bit better. Also, he won the die roll, and in the mirror, the edge is all pretty much in whoever wins the die roll. So that was pretty tough. But yeah, I squeaked out a close game two and three match. Game three actually was a little bit one-sided. I had all the answers, and yeah. So and then round nine, I played against Taxes. A very good matchup for me. Their deck is really aimed to be SS3 and pivot towards the other decks in the meta, red blue decks and stuff. So for me, it was just it was pretty easy. I just had a really good matchup against him. But shout out to him. He went 8-0. Like up until that point, so he was a really good player. I highly respect his play, and he has he plays with class. He was just one of my favorite people to play against all day. But in reality, since we were the last three, me, Adam, and Steven were the last three undefeated at round eight. And so if I had played Steven round eight, I would have preferred to play Adam in the finals because it was a much better, much closer match.
Yeah, it definitely would have been more fun to watch. I mean, I mean, because like watching those two games against Steven, like I hate saying like the Southern phrase of "bless his heart," but like he sat there as you did your thing, and then he
He,
didn't have a chance to really play because like his
yeah,
deck's just not designed to do that. That's not
right.
designed to win that matchup. It's just not a thing that's gonna happen.
I think he made a good meta call. Like he
Oh,
was
for sure.
expecting to play a ton of SS3 all day, and that's what he played, and it worked out for him. So congratulations to him on the second place finish.
Yeah, especially at a
Um,
500 person event. I mean, and yeah, I mean there was a lot of red, blue, and blue green SS3 there, and I mean it's interesting to see that SS3 didn't actually do that well at the event. I mean, I kind of
mhm.
figured that would be the case because like I knew that West Coast was really high on blue yellow because like over on the East Coast, you and I were talking, we were just like, shoot, just go to Philly or go to Otakon, and that event's like free.
Win the whole event. Yeah. Yeah. I was kicking myself. That's actually one of the reasons why I decided to go to LA. I was kicking myself for not going to Philly. And I really wanted to prove myself. It was really like one of those things for me. So, yeah, really just glad I got the opportunity to go down and do it.
Yeah. So with that
So,
being said, let's transition into your preparation for the event itself. So, how long you've been testing the deck? I mean, I already know the answer to a lot of these questions, but how long have you been testing the deck? How long have you been messing with your sideboard and testing games pre and post sideboard?
okay. Well, we started building the deck when set four, the spoilers for set four promos were announced. They were one of the last spoilers announced, and so we knew most of the set. We knew Bardock the Progenitor, Scrambling Assault Sun Goten. Once we saw that card, it was just absolutely. We knew the interaction was there, and there was some way to exploit it. So we just took the best leader and started jamming all the good cards in the deck and just testing, and we found this insane turn two aggro deck. Uh, So we built it for Gen Con, and we spent a solid 2 weeks testing and brewing and tweaking, and but then Bandai announced that Goten wasn't going to be legal for Gen Con, and so it kind of threw a wrench in our plans. So we had to set the deck down for a little bit, and just change our testing a little bit. So after Gen Con, we started playing around a little bit, and we were toying with the idea of going to the LA regional, and some of our teammates were for sure going, so we wanted to help them test, and so we started playing with the deck again. And uh, as we kept playing games and games, we just found that it just had no real counter to it. It didn't seem like it had like uh, any hard counter other than like something like Nimbus or something. So it just seemed like the only deck that stood a chance was the mirror match. We fine tuned it to beat the mirror specifically, just because that was what we felt was the only thing that could stand a chance against us. And yeah, that was pretty much it. When I picked it up and started testing multiple games, I had figured out that the list that I used for LA was only about one or two cards different from the one I set down before Gen Con. It was like we were already super far ahead at that point, and that was maybe about a month ago. So
Yeah, no, I know that blue yellow was just a thing that just popped up, because after like you and I played a bunch of games and like you'd smoked me a few games and I sacked you when I was playing my random blue green
oh,
Hirudegarn
that's
deck.
right.
And I was just like and I was just like, "Dang, Welch." I was like, "This deck is trash. Can't even beat blue green Hirudegarn."
Yeah.
And then I played games against Zap and he was playing red yellow Pan and I was just like, "What if we just changed the leader to Trunks leader?" And then
Mhm.
I just worked on the engine and the Apes engine, and then it's like and then all of the lists just kind of became homogenized, and then it's like we just came up with this weird combination of configuration, and you tweaked all the ratios, and then you made like the Rudigarn list, which in my opinion I think that list was card for card like perfectly done from top to bottom for that event. Like I think that list was 100% perfect for LA. Like sideboard, main deck, aside from the cards that you never sided in or never played, like
Right.
everything had the right amount of thought behind it. And I thought that was like, honestly, probably one of the biggest achievements in this game is like, you've had a lot of people go out and win events, but it's like they don't do it in such dominating fashion with their deck building. Like, it's just like, it's,
Right.
it's
Right.
just, it's just they're playing the generic meta deck and that won the event. But it's like, no, like, yes, this deck was something that was becoming meta, but you were the forefront of it. You were the innovator of it, and then you played the most finely tuned list at the tournament, and you won the tournament. So that's why, like this result, I kind of hold in higher esteem than I do most of the other ones.
Well, I appreciate that. And I do agree that a lot of people who win events, they do it mostly due to skill and not because of such a huge deck building edge. But I think in a meta like this, where you're playing against a lot of mirror matches all the time, the biggest edge you have is in deck building. So yeah, I appreciate those words. It's really kind, and I really do appreciate that, man.
Cool, man.
So
So,
we get to the deck list.
yeah, let's go over. I was gonna say, you can go transition to the deck list. I have it pulled up here on the video itself. So, if you want to start going over it, man, go over it and tell me about your thoughts on like how you got to the ratios that you got to.
Okay. What you'll notice is all the best cards I play four of. uh,
Facts.
and you'll see a lot of three ofs and two ofs, and I can explain why. So starting with the black cards, just going from left to right. Okay. Desperate Onslaught Bardock was a tech for the mirror specifically, and we play Planet Vegeta, and he's a Planet Vegeta target. So in the mirror, you're gonna have a lot of like Nimbus battles, and whoever has more blockers with Nimbus is like kind of like ahead. So having this guy in your deck gives you outs to those situations. Scientist Fu, we got two copies of him. Usually it would be three here, but because of the onslaught, we don't want to play too many black cards. Four would be a little bit too much because of the way the deck operates. You're going to see most of your deck on your second energy, and having multiple overwhelms at that time is not that good, obviously. So having some utility in your overwhelms is good, but having too many at once is not a good thing. So those are the black cards. Onto the blue, we have four legendary flute. That's obviously the best card, one of the best cards in the game, if not the best card in the game, and it 100% deserves its limitation. Uh, yeah, it's not much to be said about that card. For Sensu Bean, it is the best defensive card in the game, and it just extends your plays. Having two beans will stop your opponent pretty much every time. So defensively is absolutely, in my opinion, the best card against all your matchups. Specifically in the mirror, maybe Nimbus is better, but yeah, yeah, Senzu just it's a staple in my opinion. We played 3 Minotia, and skipping unyielding real quick, we'll go to 2 Hirudegarn the Wanderer. So this package, I did a 3-2 split. Again, it's because we see most of our deck on turn 2 a lot. I didn't want to go 4-4 or 4-3 or anything like that, where you're just going to clog your jaws early when you don't need to. You're just going to see it a lot, and I'll save my leader attack for when I do eventually find it with like Go 10 or just draw into it. So you're always going to be able to, almost always going to be able to discard it with your leader.
And if the way you think about the way your turns are sequenced, like since this deck usually is winning on turn 2, like your leader's only really swinging maybe up to twice per game.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so going back real quick to Unyielding, for Unyielding, this is probably the reason why the deck is as degenerate as it is. Unyielding Spirit Trunks and Sinzubin having 8 copies of cards that are just essentially free energy. They act as 1 energy in a deck that just spams 1-drops. In this deck, what it does is it gets 2 attacks per every 1 energy spent. So just each Unyielding equates to pretty much 2 more attacks on your opponent. And yeah, this card's really degenerate in a deck like this. In my opinion, the card needs to go, or and maybe an errata or some sort of limitation. But yeah, that's one of the most powerful cards in the deck. You must play 4 of it. So moving on, we have 4 Hoy, Emissary of the Flame. It's the best super combo in the game. We were just having a conversation about this. What Hoy gives the edge to Hirudegarn in the mirror against like a Trunks deck, for instance. You have Hoy to discard your dead extra cards when you're comboing for game, or just to filter and cycle your hand, just to fix your hands throughout the game as the game progresses. And when I say with the game progresses, I mean your turn 2. As your turn 2 progresses, Hoy just kind of keeps fixing your hand, and at the end, you're always going to have like 3 or 4 copies of it because of how much you cycle and search your deck. So Hoy is the best. Yeah. Anyways, that's the blue cards. Yeah. I mean, it's super common. You're not gonna play any less than 4.
Well, I mean, it's not like you're gonna run boost attack Piccolo in its space, or you're not.
Right.
It's not like you're gonna split the ratios with another blue super combo.
Right.
Like that just doesn't make any sense.
Maybe one super combo with the Kai super combo. That one might find its way in if mirror becomes so prevalent. I mean, in some fashion, it might find 1 copy or something, but I don't know. Probably not.
Never.
But yeah,
that's never gonna happen.
Hoy is just so good. So yeah, that's the blue. I mean, let's see. Looks like 17, 21 blue. So yeah, 21 blue. You're pretty much going to charge your Minotia or Wanderer in the beginning. If you don't, you're going to charge Flute or Unyielding. I try not to charge Beam. And I've actually won games where I've charged Hoy in the very beginning. You just always need to have 1 blue and 1 yellow on your second energy turn. You can never really go yellow yellow or blue blue. You must go blue yellow. So I try to keep the ratios on yellow and blue pretty similar. 3 red cards, Furthering Destruction Champa. It's a finisher. It's one of the best combos in the game. You dig for this in the end stages of the game just to win. 3 copies was good. 4 was a little too cloggy, a little too clunky. I would say I did side the 4th copy, and I did end up siding it in. So against the matchups where you want more finishing cards, it's good. But in the main board, 3 was good enough. 3 Successor of Hope. But moving on to the yellow cards, I played 3 Successor. I didn't play 4 because, well, after you find the first Bardock, the other successors are pretty lackluster. They're just other copies of Bardock, and yeah, you do want to always see Bardock turn 1, but I think with that and Planet and the 4 Bardocks, you have plenty of ways to see it. So I was trying to reduce dead cards later in the game, especially when I was trying to combo out for game, and I don't want to draw into successor. So and also I think you're forced to play Nimbus in this deck, so you just try to reduce the extra cards. 3 successor was really good for this turn.
And you think about it, it's like the difference between 7 and 8 copies of Bardock isn't really that huge of a difference in a deck that's only 36 cards when the game starts. And then additionally, you only need to play so many cards in your deck that are just air, which is what Successor of Hope is. It's just filler. It's just help you to thin your deck out even more. So I don't think that 4 is needed, especially when you're just seven copies of your Bardock seems just fine.
Yeah, and we also run 3 Planet, which you'll use to search Bardock as well. So it's really 10 copies. You're still playing more than someone not playing Planet.
Yeah, and I think honestly, Planet is where you had the edge against the mirror matches, because if they weren't running Planet, they didn't have a way to secure the Goten if they didn't already have one. So it's like
Right.
turn one you would just like tap a yellow, play planet, like if you needed to, or just in matchups in general.
Exactly.
I saw you do that.
It was my go-to turn one play for sure.
Yeah.
I noticed a lot of the times when I was playing against the mirror match after I win game one or win game two, they'd always tell me, "Oh, I didn't see go 10," and I say, "Oh, you don't." You know, you just try to make your deck a little bit more consistent. You have to have the cards that are unsearchable. You got to do the best you can to search them, essentially. So you got to play those some number of planets. Now, so I didn't play 4 copies because it's again one of those extra cards that you don't want to draw when you're comboing out, and because it costs 1 energy, you don't really want to play 2 planets on your second energy turn because you're using those resources on playing Bardocks and Gotens and stuff. So,
Yeah, at most
uh,
you're playing one planet per game, and then your
yeah,
worst draw you're playing 2 per game. Like
right, yeah,
at
exactly.
most.
The 3 copies is just so you can see it reliably turn one, and then it'll be yellow in too.
Correct.
Then going on to 4 Bardock, the pro. That's just like really good. 1 drop 10k is really good, and it takes a life, so it helps you self awaken. Just absolutely phenomenal. And swap 2, like it's just really good. Him and Goten are peanut butter and chocolate, man. I think that's a reference I've heard you use. They're just
Yep.
peanut butter and chocolate, brother. They're so good. It's just, the combo is just too good. 4 Goten and 4 Bardock. For every 1 energy you spend, you're gonna get 2 attacks. So that's the main problem of this format at the moment. You just get too many attacks per energy.
And they draw
Uh,
each of them draws you cards. Like so you
yeah,
get 2 attacks and each one lets you see a new card.
yeah. Bardock is a flute. He's like I play 8 flutes, really, essentially. So yeah, it's just really good. It's the whole reason why we even play this deck. I played 2 adoptive fathers. They're just complement the successor and to give you ways to play Gotens when you're at really low life. So generally, if you're in the mirror trying to survive and you think you can go an extra turn, you don't want to go below 3 life. So you want to be able to play your Goten, but you don't want to have to take life to do it. And then if you're going out for game and you only have 1 life left, then you can still play the Goten. I'm sorry, the Gohan, and then swap into the Goten. The main problem with him is he's only 4K, so he never pressures the leader by itself. His pressure or his power that you're going to combine with your opponent is essentially just what you combo. The 4K makes it very awkward, so I never really attacked with him. The last 4 cards in the deck are the blockers. I play 2 Gene. This card is really good in the mirror specifically. Just when you have Nimbus, you have a Bardock and a Gene, and you should be able to protect yourself and stay alive because of that. And real quick about Adoptive Father, he's a blocker too. So when you have Nimbus, you can also set up Nimbus blocker with him. And then yeah, 2 Bardock Will of Iron. I was playing 3 originally, but I only wanted to see 1 copy generally throughout the game, and I never really wanted to have more than 10Ks in the deck than I needed. You just don't want your hands to be full of 10Ks because your energy you want spent on playing guys. So he was really good as a finisher. Like I said, I only really needed to see 1 copy of him throughout the game, and it would be like I would combo him when I was doing my Furthering Destruction Champa combo, put my opponent from 4 to 2, and then I would just play him, and I would be able to swing with him and combo out him for game. So just another finisher with the Bardocks, the Furtherings, the Foos. Those are your main finishers in the deck. And ideally, what you're going to do on your turn 2 is you're just going to swing with your Goten and your Bardock 1 drops over and over for the minimum. So your opponent's at 15K on their leader, you're going to combo to 15K. If they're 20K on their leader, you're going to combo to 20K. That's it. You don't want to combo. So it makes them using their 10Ks more awkward. It makes them just comboing a little bit more awkward, and it drains their hand that way. So if I'm attacking 8, 9, 10 times or more with these minimum that they have to combo a card each time to do it, their hand drains down really low. So on the last 3 or 4 attacks, you can just combo to like 40K double strike with a Furthering or Bardock or Fu and just be able to kill them. They can't combo out of it.
Yeah, no. Overall, the deck it's incredibly consistent. Like I said, I think that this build was the perfect build for LA in general. And if you just look at the deck list itself, to me, it's just beautiful. Like it's
Appreciate it.
all the ratios are in the right spots. There's no questions as to why a certain card isn't over a certain card. I mean, people if they wanted to place 3 Scientist Fuse over the Bardock, they could but like in general, like if you just play this list as is right now, you're gonna have a ton of success with it. You just have to learn the sequencing portion of it.
Oh yeah,
Um,
sequencing is
yeah.
probably the most important
Yeah,
part of
this
of
deck
the
is
deck.
it's a high skill cap deck for sure. Like you
Absolutely.
can't just sleeve this up and play it at your local and expect to win games. Like every turn like counts. Like I was on stream earlier tonight while Scotch was playing like his blue yellow Vegeta deck, and I got on him because like he awakened too early.
Mm.
He awakened to untap too early instead of using all of his energy again, which he had the potential to do, and so he lost.
Oh.
I call it a full Goten cycle. Like he's essentially
Mhm.
lost the ability to play another Bardock, swing, unyielding the Bardock, untap an energy, play a Goten, play the Bardock again, and
Right.
then untap his
Exactly.
two.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, so
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's little things like that that are actually like what they call like a butterfly effect, where it just kind of snowballs into missed equity, and the missed equity gets bigger and bigger. So yeah, I would say like sequencing is by far the most important part of running the deck, and sequencing properly will give you an extra 3 or 4 attacks per turn, and that even equals more card advantage. So I can go over sequencing. Let's go talk about
Yeah, sure thing,
sequencing.
man. Let's go and talk about your
So,
sequencing.
generally speaking, what I like to do is play a guy before I attack. So, on my 2 energy turn, my first play is a Bardock 1 drop. And when I attack with him, I want to untap immediately. But at this point in the game, your opponent's at 10k, and you don't want to really over combo. So ideally, you want to use a Sensu Bean and put the Sensu Bean on your leader, so your combo is only 10k. You have to do little things like that to increase your equity throughout the game. Little things like that will equate to card advantage later. So um, swinging with Bardock and only being 10k, but having the ability to untap is big. But if you only have unyielding, you're still going to do it. You're still going to do it. The reason is you're going to be able to see more cards. So uh, after you combo and you untap your energy, you have 2 energy up. You swap into Goten, and then you play the Bardock again. And before attacking with Goten, I see a big. I would say a lot of people do this where they just swing with Goten immediately to see the cards. But I like to save my Gotens because the more Gotens you have saved up on the board, and the more you go through your turn, the smaller your deck is. So if you save your Gotens and your deck is at 15 cards, every Goten swing is just gonna see way more valuable cards, unsearchable valuable cards like Sensu Bean, just unsearchable cards. Is super combos, flutes. You're just gonna see those on average more often when you hold on to Goten and thin your deck out before you do that. So generally sequencing, keeping Goten like that and using Goten like that is one of the reasons why I won. It keeps you going and being able to find almost anything you need at that point. When you have 1, 2, 3 Gotens on the board and they're all swinging at once, you have 9 cards, and then you flute 10 cards to look at. So it's sequencing. You might not think it's important, but it is by far the most important aspect of running the deck.
Yeah, I like to think of it like you're almost when you're playing the deck and you want to play it optimally, you're almost like always constantly walking the tightrope with the Bardock. So it's like the Bardock is essentially ends up being the main attacker for the majority of the game because it's like
Mhm.
you're gonna play him, you're gonna see the extra card from your life, you're gonna swing, and then that's the body you usually want to use to untap the energy. And then
Mhm.
so that way, once you untap the energy, once you've taken the life and you've seen the extra card, now you can then make an informed decision of can I swap into another Goten now if I have one, or then do I need to proceed to then do a leader swing, discard, draw 2 cards, and then find maybe another Goten. And it's like, and then you continue just building this cycle where you just amass 2 to 3 Gotens on the board, and then now, as you stated, now when each one of them swings, it's just seeing, you know, higher value cards across the course of the game. And it's like
Mhm.
I see people swing with their Gotens like as like their second attack of that turn. And it's like
Right.
what they don't know is like they'll swing with the Bardock, they won't like untap their energy, and then they'll swing with the leader, they won't untap their energy, and then their Goten gets negated and now they don't have a yellow.
Now they're bottlenecked,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Another important, exactly. So if you're sequencing it differently and you don't untap on that first Bardock attack, for instance, you could get bottlenecked by them negating your Goten if you're relying on that Goten to go through. So yeah, you can't. Another reason why that sequencing is so important is so you don't get bottlenecked and your turn doesn't end through a negate. Always having some attacker up to be able to untap is very important.
Yeah, in general, I mean that's a big thing. And then of course working on your combo and combat math of this deck is something that you have to really work on. Like you can't just
Hmm.
like you have to know when to combo up to 20 to 25k, and like you can never really
Right.
do 20 against a like an awakened leader. Like if you
Hmm.
especially if you're trying to force through damage, you have to at least go to 25, so it's like they have to give you a 10k boost plus the second card. Like
Right. Right.
and then, of course, like you said, when you're trying to chip at them, when you're trying to chip at their hand and whittle their hand size down to set up for the finish, that's when you would just like, okay, well, they're at 15, or if they've been, they're at 20, then you'd have to do 2. But then you have to think about
Right.
how you want to force through your damage as well.
Exactly. It's not always just black and white. If you sit there and think, you might find a better line of play. So, it's just there's a ton of lines of play in this deck. There's just so much decision making, and like you said, it's a very high skill cap. And yeah, a lot of your advantage and your edge is going to be in the combo phase, but defensive and offensive step.
Definitely. So now that we've gushed all about your super sweet deck, where do you think the format goes from here, man?
Well, like I said, I haven't found a deck that really counters it. I'm sure there are decks out there if people really put their mind to it. The problem I've run into most of the time is that any deck that I found that really counters it just gets crushed by the other decks in the meta, like Vegeta Energy Lock or SS3 Red, for instance. Those decks just like will just completely destroy any deck that tries to like it is a hard counter to the Hirudegarn deck. So unfortunately, in my opinion, I don't think there's a better deck to play still, even moving forward, than the blue yellow deck until at least the flute limitation happens on the 21st. But there are going to be decks that pop up. A lot of yellow decks. Any deck that can play Nimbus. So if you're saying I'm not going to play Hirudegarn, I'm going to counter this deck, and I'm just not going to worry about my SS3 matchup or whatever. I'm going to play any deck that has yellow in it, so I can supplement Flying Nimbus. And also, if those decks can play Goten and Bardock, well, you try to do that too. It's just really good. I've actually found a really good Mecha Frieza deck that counters it because it can play free Nimbus and it can awaken really early with Bardock and Goten. So that might be something to, experiment with. But you're definitely towing the line when you play a Shugesh deck. So, uh, but yeah, that's in terms of like anywhere else I would see it going. I just don't see anything else that counters it. Just not really any bad matchups besides the mirror match. I think just as the format progresses, there's just going to be more and more decks tuned to beat the mirror. You know.
Yeah, I think people have this misconception where they think that it's like if they play these like one or two defensive cards that it's like going to be something that pushes the matchup in their favor, but what they're not realizing is you not only have to defend yourself, but you also have to maintain card parity with the Hirudegarn player and deploy threats on your turn that threaten them. So you have to do all
Hmm.
three of those things in order to win the game, whereas Hirudegarn just has to do its one thing. It just has to stay on plan and then it's going to kill you. Like inevitably it is going to break through. You're not going to have the answer, and then that's what's going to cause you to lose the game. And like that's how the deck ends up winning. It's like I know that, and all that's compressed within 2 turns. Like, and that's the
Hmm.
thing that makes the deck so incredibly insane is the fact that it's like it's taking this like how long a game should be, and it's taking all the cards in your deck and it's making the majority of them blank and unplayable. And it's basically forcing you to respond to it on the first 2 turns of the game. And if you can't, then you hopefully get a third turn. But even on that third turn, if you can't do anything with it, you're just gonna have to go through that same exact sequencing all over again.
Exactly. And I'm sure people aren't looking forward to that.
No, I mean I'm not like it's just like a
Right.
I've had the same ideas in my head about the format right now where it's like I try and check the boxes. I'm like, okay, can this compete with like Yellow Blue Hirudegarn? Like kind of like the matchup is still 60-40 in their favor, but then like
Hmm.
do I get dumpstered by a foreseeing hit? Yes. Like
Yes.
and then
Yeah.
like does my deck need to play 4 drops? Okay, well then I get killed by the Vegeta lock. So it's like you're
Hmm.
in this like you're fighting in a phone booth. That's the phrase I just been using like
That's
constantly, but that's like
it is
that's
a
what you're
great
doing.
phrase.
That's what you're
I
doing
have,
right now.
yeah, I read those articles, and fighting in the Forest is exactly the perfect way to describe this format.
Yeah, and
Just
like
so compressed into this small space.
yeah, I was telling people I was like, Blue Yellow Hirudegarn is fighting in a phone booth and it's Bruce Lee. So it's like
Yeah, that's great. Oh man, yeah, it's Bruce Lee, and you're unfortunately a 5-year-old schoolgirl, like just ready to hopefully fight back. Hopefully just don't beat me too hard. Real quick before we wrap this up, I do want to go over the mulligan strategy and how I mulligan.
Yeah, sure thing.
Uh, Generally speaking, the mulligan cards, you want to keep maybe one flute, Minutia, Successor, and Bardock, and Goten, Planet Vegeta, any of those cards that search. Because what you need to win on turn 2 is really just blue energy, a yellow energy, a Bardock, and a Goten. And you're just going to find everything else. That's really all you need. The deck will just naturally find everything else it needs. There wasn't a game that I didn't win on the second turn, except against the mirror match, where your mulligan strategy has to change into like mulliganing hard for Senzu and Nimbus, depending on if you're on the play or on the draw. So if you're on the play, you have a huge edge, and you probably just want to set up for your turn 2 anyways. But if you're on the draw and you only have 1 energy by the time they have 2 energy, you can really only hope to have Nimbus and maybe double bean, but I've still been killed, and I've killed many people through double bean. So against the mirror, you gotta look for that Nimbus. But yeah, against everything else, you just want everything, things that set up the game. You just need 1 Bardock, 1 Goten, a blue energy, and a yellow energy.
So when are you more focused on getting the Goten than you are the Bardock? So if like you open up 6 and like your 6 doesn't contain a Goten but it contains a Bardock, are you throwing back all 6 to get a Goten?
You know what? I had a situation come up. There was one game where I didn't have Bardock or some combination of Bardock, Goten, or Planet. So there was one game in the entire all the games that I played that I only opened up 1 planet with no other card, and I did prioritize searching Goten because I play more copies of Bardock in my deck than I do Goten. So
Correct.
I used Planet to get Goten, and I was just relying on my following turn to be able to dig out that Bardock, and I ended up finding it and just winning because of that. So yeah,
Nice.
it wasn't. Yeah, so I do prioritize Goten because you only have 1 way to search it, and that's the planet. And with you have Planet, Successor, and Bardock itself, so you have way more copies.
All right. Welch, as we've been going through, and I think we went as deep as possible, running close to 40 minutes here.
Oh my gosh.
Let's get to your shout outs. Let's get to closing down this episode. I'm pretty sure people
Okay,
are gonna love how
absolutely.
deep this went, though.
Okay, great. Okay, so shout outs to my team, Shenron's Lair. I think, man, we're up and coming, like, gonna be passing PPG and KTM real soon. If not, we're gonna be fighting hard for it, you know? So I specifically want to shout out Marcus Cantarsi and Jack Lebke. We all played the deck to perfection this weekend. Jack Lebke won Australian regionals with the same exact deck that we played, and Marcus got 3rd place at LA regionals, and he ended up his only loss in Swiss was to me technically, even though he conceded. Yeah, he 2-0'd every single opponent he played as well. So in tournament this weekend, Jack went 10-0-1. I went 9-0, and Marcus went 8-1 for a combined total of 27-1-1. And it's just insane. So I want to give huge props to those guys. Their performance should not be undermined by my success and my win at all. So I think they deserve a big shout out. And shout out to Pat's Discord. As you know, I was gonna shout you guys out. Pat O'Neill, Richard Zapp, Matt Combs. You guys are just a great group of guys. Really just phenomenal, and just the testing insight, just the matchup knowledge, the meta knowledge, everything you guys bring to the table is just absolutely phenomenal. And going even further, Pat's Discord has a lot of great players in it, not just the cream of the crop or whatever. I would say there's Nick Botchus, Nick Brady, Jordan Markle, Ryan Severin, a lot of great guys. The list goes on. So Pat's Discord is broken.
Yeah,
We've
Tier 0 Discord, man.
Tier 0 Discord. We've continued to just break the meta over and over and over, and just honestly, I'm really excited to work together in the future with you guys. And yeah, that's it, man.
For sure, man. Again, I just want to thank you again for coming on and spending all this time talking with me. I'll have this uploaded here shortly so everyone can get all these wonderful details. But again, thank you so much for coming on. And just shout out again to Pat's Discord. Shout out to Shenron's Lair. I think, honestly, now with your win and the points finishes you guys had, you're probably going to be top 2 or 3 teams right now. And like that's
hopefully
amazing, man. And I'm honestly just glad because you messaged me Friday and you said, last minute trip. You said boys, last minute trip to LA,
Boys.
and like you were just so confident. I was so happy you got the win. Like you worked so
Oh
hard, and
man,
like
thank you.
we both knew you had it. Like it was just a
Oh
matter of
yeah,
like you were the best at the deck that you were going to be playing. Like there was no one in the room that could unseat you. And then you just
right.
went and did it, like, and so I'm. This is huge for you to just kind of get that monkey off your back, just get the huge win out of the way, and then
Get it out of the way.
now you can start focusing on maybe fun formats like World Martial Arts Tournament.
Yeah, casual formats, huh?
Yeah.
Man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, all right, guys. Thank you guys so much again. Scrub Fam is best fam. I'll be putting the Patreon link down in the Discord, as well as a link to the T-shirt if you want to get 3X3 Productions T-shirt, and then also Shenron's Lair's website. You can check that out so you can build all your decks, and you can check out the profiles of all the different members of their team. But anyway, again, thanks, Chris. Thank you guys. Bye.